And we're live. Okay, welcome back to our podcast. My name is Bryce.
My name's
This is my
Joe.
co-host. There we go. And this is Sports and Beyond. So, Joe, how have you been?
I've been pretty damn good, pretty good day. Ready to talk some sports with my bud.
How are you feeling about our first podcast together? What are you thinking?
This is pretty awesome. I'm hoping here's to many more and that this goes viral and we're recognized as like top podcasters in America. That'd be pretty damn cool.
Yeah, that's a big goal to reach, but I feel like if we put our heart into it and we get the right audience, I feel like anything's kind of possible in life.
We can do any. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, Michael Jordan.
Oh, okay. We're starting off with the quote. Nice. Okay.
I'm not strong with the sports quote.
Yeah. So you want to start us off with the first topic we're going to talk about in the sports part of the podcast, or what do you want to do?
I got you. So the very first topic, maybe like it's a huge topic recently, especially if you live in California. It's about the San Francisco 49ers.
Ooh,
Is Brock Purdy, is he worth $60 million a year? What do you think, Bryce?
Okay. So, I mean, I'm an average viewer of football, right? I don't belong to a team. I watch NFL Red Zone. I play fantasy football. I was the number 1 seed. Unfortunately, got knocked out in the first round. Yeah, I mean, it sucks. Don't even get me started about fantasy football. But Brock Purdy, in my opinion, like his stats this year really didn't stand out. He looked like an above par quarterback. And I feel like if you're going to put $60 million into a quarterback, I feel like you kind of expect a high quality quarterback that could show up day in and day out and just perform to the top level. What do you think, Joe?
Okay, so before I go into what I think, I feel like I should reiterate Brock Purdy season stats so that people can really get what Bryce is going at. Yeah. So Brock Purdy this year had 66% completion, 30 pass attempts per game, 3,864 yards with an average of 8 yards an attempt. And he had 20 touchdowns to 12 picks, which is, Bryce is right, that's pretty mediocre for a quarterback in a season. But I am a raging Niners fan. For all your viewers out there, if you know me personally, you know I'm a raging, angry Niners fan. Brock Purdy is the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. See, he had a bad season this year, but last year he had an MVP caliber season, 4,280 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 11 picks. Those numbers are elite. He led his team to the Super Bowl, unfortunately lost, but Kyle Shanahan exists. We'll get into why I hate Kyle Shanahan later. But I think that Brock Purdy, although he had a subpar season, it's his time. He's the future of the Niners. He had various injuries this year. Most of his O-line was hurt. I mean, all he had was Trent Williams blocking for him. Everybody else was coming and going. His best weapon, Christian McCaffrey, was out. Brandon Ayuk was out. Deebo Samuel was playing like crap. I mean, Kittle and Juwan, they stepped up big time, but it just wasn't enough for Brock to put up great numbers. And to be fair, he was dealing with his lingering thumb issues. So I think Brock Purdy is definitely worth $60 million. So, yeah.
Okay, Joe. I have a question, though. So if you're a quarterback that's getting paid $60 million a year, don't you think that you should be good despite not having the weapons that you expect to have? I mean, let's be honest. The 49ers were a really good team last year. They had everyone healthy. They were arguably the best team in the league, and they fell short because of the performance in the Super Bowl, and then it translated to this year. Brock Purdy played bad. Is he a system quarterback, or is he a quarterback that stands out from the rest? What do you think?
Brock Purdy is not, I repeat, not a system quarterback. I firmly believe he is nowhere near a system quarterback. Listen, there have been moments where Brock Purdy, even this year, where Brock Purdy has stepped up and shown that he is a clutch quarterback. A system quarterback is somebody like Andy Dalton I'd say Andy Dalton as a prime example right now. They're serviceable. Why be average when you can be amazing? Brock Purdy is more than a serviceable quarterback. Brock Purdy is the type of quarterback that you want on your team to win games. And people overshadow that because of the roster he's around. But he is 100% fully capable of leading his team to big wins. And a moment where we saw this was the NFC Championship game in 2024. The Niners were down at halftime, 24-7 to the Lions. I was sitting there literally like hands in head. I thought it was over. We're going to lose to the Lions. We ain't going to the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy took over in the second half. You may argue it's because of his weapons. To be fair, Brandon Ayuk had a pretty nice catch, but that was a good throw too. Well, actually, no, it was tipped. But that was a nice catch by Ayuk.
Arguably, Joseph, I feel like that amazing catch by Ayuk, I'm not taking any credit. It was a horrible throw. I mean, right to the defender, but I mean, the defender just wasn't able to get his hands on it. So like, I feel like we can give credit to Brock Purdy for. I mean, like you could give credit to Brock Purdy for winning that game. Overall, he played an amazing game that game. But I feel like we're overshadowing his mistakes in moments that it matters most. For example, a prime example that happened this season against the Rams. It was a win or go home. We win against the Rams. We keep advancing and we get to go to maybe another playoff berth. But unfortunately, Brock Purdy just wasn't on. I mean, Deebo Samuel didn't have a good game, and that's where I'm explaining. Like, if Brock Purdy isn't a system quarterback, why is he playing poorly when everyone else around him is playing poorly? And to kind of like compare this to soccer, I know you're not a big soccer guy, but like people tell me personally that Erling Haaland is a tap-in merchant. But I would like to argue that the reason why Erling Haaland is so dominant is because the people around him feed him the balls and allow him to do his job. So when Erling Haaland has a bad night, it's probably because everyone else around him has a bad night. I mean, if you really think about it, if you're 6'4" and your job is to literally stand in the box, jump and hit the ball, and no one's giving you the ball to jump and hit, is it that person's fault?
No.
So, I mean, in a way, like I feel like Brock Purdy is putting himself in bad positions, even though his team is also putting him in bad positions. I feel like if it was any other composed quarterback let me take that back. I feel like if it was any playoff quarterback at the time that knew that their season was on the line would have been a little more comfortable and confident throwing the ball. I think Brock Purdy was scared. I think he was panicking, and I feel like he wasn't really looking at the field at face value. He was kind of just like looking at this one guy making the throw, and the defense was easy to read it.
F it, Juwan down there somewhere. That's what he said.
Yeah, I mean, like at some point in the season, I mean, people are going to catch on. And I feel like at that point of the season, everyone kind of understood the 49ers system. The 49ers, like if you look like, and like you mentioned earlier, Kyle Shanahan wasn't the best coach this season. But I feel like that this bad season shouldn't overshadow all of the other years that he had an amazing coaching season. And to parlay into coaching and poor coaching, I feel like we should transition this over to the Sacramento Kings, because the Sacramento Kings, there's a new man in town. What do you think?
Doug Christie, man. My beautiful bald king savior. So a little bit of background. Doug Christie, he was a player for the Kings from 2000 to 2005, and he was a dog. Like, he was a great defensive two-way player. Like, he could shoot the ball. He could play amazing defense. Part of that 01-02 Sacramento Kings team that went to the Western Conference Finals and were cheated out of it, but we'll get into that some other episode because I know Bryce probably doesn't want to talk about that because he knows how passionate I am about that. Anyway,
Yes,
Doug was a dog in his playing days. Like, this man was an amazing passer, elite shooter, elite defender. He was the heart and soul of that Sacramento King. Well, not the heart and soul, but he was a huge contributing part of that Sacramento Kings team. And when I found out that we hired him as an assistant coach in 2021, when he came from being a a commentator, I was like, wow, Doug Christie, like, wow, I didn't know you knew ball like that. And he was an assistant coach under Mike Brown and assistant coaching with Jorge Fernandez for a few years before he was able to take the helm. And another thing I would like to mention is Mike Brown's success. I feel like part of that was because he had guys like Jorge Fernandez leave and he started losing the trust of Doug Christie and the players. So that was a prime reason of why I left. So Doug Christie, this man has energy, pure aura from this man. He knows how to get his players excited because he was a former player himself. He knows how to hype up his crowd and get his guys ready. As you've seen in recent Kings games, he's gotten his crowd hyped. He's gotten his players excited to go out on that court, grab rebounds, play physical, all that good jazz. And he's been the perfect embodiment of a coach so far, being 7-1, being 7-0 in 2025. Kings are posted at a 20-19 record right now, when earlier this month they were 13-19, and they're starting to step it up because of Doug Christie. So I'm a huge Doug Christie fan. What about you, Bryce?
So going back to Doug Christie's career, I mean, the stats don't really show that he was like this dominant player on the court. But if you like, obviously you were too young to watch him play live. But like, if you watch clips and you watch highlights, he was a big impact on the team. And I feel like coming into the coaching staff when he did, I feel like he really elevated the team. And no offense to Mike Brown, but Mike Brown wasn't a player. He wasn't someone who understood the game deep like Doug Christie. Mike Brown struggled to call timeouts when it was necessary. Mike Brown struggled to set up a good and solid rotation. I feel like in the sport of basketball, you need, for the regular season at least, a good 10-man rotation, maybe even an 8. Now, it is unexcusable for Mike Brown not to start or even give minutes to Keon Ellis, the GOAT Keon Ellis, okay? Keon Ellis is the most important defensive role in this Sacramento Kings team right now. I mean, last year, towards the beginning of the year, Keegan Murray, he was hot. He was shooting well. He was defending well. He was our main guy. But he's recently fallen off. And I feel like Doug Christie has kind of understood that some of the players that were hot for Mike Brown aren't really hot right now, and he's making adjustments. He's giving minutes to Keon Ellis. De'Aaron Fox came out with an injury recently, so he's giving Malik Monk the start. He's still kind of throwing in people to play, but is giving everyone a chance to elevate the team. Someone personally who I think could swing the rock and proves it night in and night out when they get to play is Doug McDermott. I mean, Doug McDermott should get more reps than Kevin Huerter. I'm sorry. Kevin Huerter hasn't been hot. Right. No, I mean, maybe it's the headband. I mean, the headband's off 1 year and he's shooting bad. Like, I think he needs to put the headband back on. But I have a proposal, and we've talked about this before. We know that there's trade rumors with Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler isn't just going to go to any team. Miami Heat are going to screw him over because they screwed him over. How would you feel we throwing Keegan Murray and Kevin Huerter to the Heat in return for the big contract of Jimmy Butler? What do you think?
Okay, so there's a lot, but that I can decipher from that phrase you just sent me. So I'm gonna break it down little by little. So first, I don't think the Miami Heat would accept a package with Keegan Murray and Kevin Huerter because both have been like off this year. We'd probably have to throw in a few picks. And I've seen like rumors where like the Kings want to throw in DeMar DeRozan to get Jimmy Butler, but I just don't know if that's worth it. I mean, they're both 35-year-old small forwards. Jimmy Butler is more of like an energy type of like clutch player. So is DeMar DeRozan, but Jimmy Butler's just always been better because he's Jimmy Butler. I'm a huge Jimmy Butler fan, but as much as I love Jimmy Butler, he would not be good for the Sacramento Kings. As we saw in the beginning of the year with Mike Brown, when we first got DeMar DeRozan, the team started off horribly. You know, when you have three main guys, when you got De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, and DeMar DeRozan all trying to share the rock and score consistently when they're all three in the court at the same time, I don't think it would work. And Jimmy Butler likes to be the guy that takes over. And to be fair, when he takes over, he's hot. He's a great player when he takes over. We saw that in the 2023 finals run when he took the 8th seeded Heat all the way to the finals against the Denver Nuggets. Unfortunately, got crushed by the Nuggets because Nikola Jokic had an amazing season that year. But Jimmy Butler is the type of guy that likes to take over. And on the Sacramento Kings, there is not a single player that takes over. All players play their parts. I mean, you could make an argument, fourth quarter Fox, fourth quarter DeMar, they take over. But, like, it's not just, like, one guy. We're giving the rock to one guy like Jimmy Butler has experience on his other teams.
Yeah, can I add something to that? Jimmy Butler, honestly, what I've noticed through his career is he unfortunately brings a very negative, like, aroma. Like, when he goes to teams, it becomes very toxic. And I feel like the Sacramento Kings right now with Doug Christie as coach, it's up here. Why do we want to bring someone who will instantly lower it down? Not to mention, I feel like Jimmy Butler doesn't bring too much to the table compared to DeMar DeRozan right now. And I know that's a wild statement because Jimmy Butler is an amazing player, but I feel like it's important to focus on other players that bring a lot to the table. And to transition to the next part, we have Sophia here, our guest to the podcast. Sophia, do you want to add anything?
I didn't really hear the context, and I'm trying to find a place where the light doesn't make me look crazy. Okay, there you go. We'll do that.
Okay.
I'm Sophia, and
Nice.
I don't know anything about football. That's not my game. And I don't really know anything at this point in my life. I don't really keep up with a lot of sports besides track and field. But I am a huge Gonzaga fan. Go Zags.
Okay.
Sabonis! Shout out Sabonis!
Yes. And also shout out the love of my life, Andrew Nembhard.
Oh, yes.
And then, okay, I need to
You're
proper.
good. You do what you want to do.
And where was I going with this? Oh yeah, ask me in 2022. I could have told you probably told you about every single point guard in the tournament. Like I was on it, but I'm a more casual viewer now. But I
Okay,
do,
so good thing about casual viewing is I'd say me and Joseph are both very casual viewers. Right now we're talking about Jimmy Butler. Are you familiar with Jimmy Butler?
yes, I am.
So, what have you heard about the trade rumors? Do you think that it's a good thing that he's leaving Miami, or do you think maybe he's being a little toxic towards the team? What do you think?
Um, I mean, honestly, I don't really know much about it, but I feel like he's Jimmy Buckets, and I feel like it's hard to imagine him like on another team. And I think when you've like built your career on a certain team and gained popularity on a certain team and like the playoff run they had with him on the Heat, I think it's always gonna bring up the conversation of like disloyalty and like toxicity. Like and honestly, like I don't really keep up with the NBA too much, like I said, but like Clay Thompson also leaving the Warriors, it's just like puts a sour taste in your mouth. It's like how can you basically have the best years of your career and then leave?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we've seen this before. I mean, LeBron leaving Cleveland, like
Kevin Durant
NBA
going
is
to
going
the
for like
Warriors.
heartbreak. So I feel like right now with the way NBA is, I'm not surprised that a lot of players are wanting to leave the the place that they were. I mean, it's NBA is a tough game. Night in and night out, you have to play. I mean, we see Embiid hurt every single other day because someone breathed on him. NBA is not an easy sport, and I feel like it's very physically demanding. So I don't blame Jimmy Butler for wanting to leave a place that might be mentally messing with him. But I feel like the way that he expressed it wasn't right.
For sure. And I think that Jimmy Butler, I saw a report earlier today that he told Pat Riley to his face. Pat Riley is the coach for the Miami Heat, by the way. He
Yes.
told him straight to his face, I want to get out of here. I want to get out of the Heat. And Jimmy Butler has been loyal to the Heat for a few years. So I guess it's understandable on why he wants to leave because he's probably frustrated and he really wants a ring, especially in 2022 when he literally put the entire team on his back and took them all the way to the NBA Finals as an eighth seed to unfortunately lose to the Nikola Jokic's super team. I think he's a very passionate player, and he's also a very good player. Like Sophia said, Jimmy Buckets, he can take over in basically any situation, and he's just a really good all around player. And I think most of his reason for wanting to leave is just overall frustration with the Miami Heat organization because he just feels that he served his purpose. He gave him all he had, but the Miami Heat hasn't done anything to like show it. Like Miami Heat hasn't done, he's gave him so much, but the Miami Heat have not replicated that into giving him a championship or anything like that.
So do you blame the Miami Heat as an organization for not producing these winning records with these amazing players, or do you blame the team itself, like the people around Jimmy Butler? Maybe Jimmy Butler's just being a selfish player and not elevating everyone around him, but rather dragging everybody down. Who's to blame for the failure in Miami?
Well, I think the failure to blame, who's to blame for the failure in Miami? I think a big part of it is coaching because they've had a pretty good roster, but also they lack bench depth. Because if you look at their roster for the past few years, they've been circled by Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, who's an extremely solid center, and then they had Tyler Harrow, but then nobody else. Like they don't have a good supporting cast off the bench. If their starting five could play the entire game, all full like 48 minutes that they're out there, the Miami Heat would definitely have a championship by now. It's just a matter of like their bench depth has never been really that good and their coaching hasn't been good. That's why Jimmy Butler's been able to take over because he's an experienced NBA veteran and he is the type of veteran that wins games for his team. So I think part of it to blame is their lack of bench depth and their coaching.
Okay, so Sophia, obviously you're a casual viewer. Do you often watch basketball, or is it something that it's like, oh, it's on, I'll throw it on?
Um, at this point, not very often. Like I'll watch it kind of in the background, but I don't really follow it closely. I still follow Gonzaga closely, and I'm more interested, especially like when the tournament comes around. I think college basketball ultimately to me is more enthralling because to me there's a lot more heart in the game. Like when you're watching the NBA, it's they're almost like dehumanized because they're playing at such a high level. To me, it kind
Money.
of loses. and the money, and they lose their relatability because to me, a lot of them they've already made it. And
Yeah.
so there's less heart in the game. But when you're a college basketball team, like nothing gets me more than a good upset, than a good
Yeah.
solid upset in
Not
the
St.
tournament.
Peter's.
Yeah. Like like no, like I don't think a single moment in sports has given me the same amount of joy as when Fairleigh Dickinson University, who's even heard of that, beat
Yeah.
number one Purdue. Oh my lord.
Yes.
He oh
Crazy.
like I will remember that for the rest of my life. Genuinely.
Yeah. And we've seen a lot of upsets in the March Madness tournament. I mean, a couple years ago, it wasn't like St. Peter's or whatever, a school that no
MI5.
one's ever heard of. I mean, making these runs. I mean, I feel like in college basketball, like Sophia said, there's a lot more passion. They have a lot more to play for because they want to be in the position where they're in the NBA to make a name for themselves. So I feel like Sophia brings up a great point, talking back to like Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is being very selfish and not understanding like, hey, you still have something to prove. Although your nickname is Jimmy Buckets, you get paid to play. You can't go and complain and sit out for days on end because, oh, I'm not happy, I'm just going to throw my hands up in the air. No, you need to prove something. You still have something to prove. You're not a Hall of Famer. You haven't won a championship. He still has a lot to prove as a player. And I feel like Sophia really hit it on the head. Not even talking about Jimmy Butler, but just in general, basketball has been slightly decreasing, especially in the NBA, because of the amount of passion that people have on the sport. There's not enough passion anymore. I feel like if you're looking for passion, you got to go to college football. You got to go to college basketball. Any college sports has passion. I mean, look at the energy at college football games. I mean, it's unreal. So
Something I'd like to add real quick is I'm looking
Yeah.
up Jimmy Butler's stats so I can just tell him. So Jimmy Butler recently has been averaging 18 last year. This year so far he's been averaging only 17, year before 20, and then the year they went on their finals run was 23 points per game. He's been the type of guy that you want on your team, but also at the same time I feel like what Sophia said about him being a little toxic, or no, that was what Bryce said, but you both kind of said something about that, him being like he wants to be more like he's not losing his passion. He just wants to win games rather than the actual heart of the sport. To be fair, Jimmy Butler is one of the most like to heart players this league has ever seen. Jimmy Butler has always put on his 100% effort. We even see that as his backstory. He started off as a homeless kid. He was a bad kid in like middle school, but then he was taken in by some really nice family and he was able to make a name for himself because of that. Jimmy Butler has always been working hard his entire life. And for playing for as long as he has since 2012, so about like 12, 13 years now, and not winning a championship, just to fall up short because his team couldn't put out the same results that he was putting out. I kind of understand why he's being frustrated, but also what you guys brought up about him not being passionate and, just like NBA players overall, just bringing down the overall morality and joy of the sport.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it any better myself. Jimmy Butler is a great player. It's just the situation that he's putting his team in. And we've seen it before with the Timberwolves. I mean, everyone's heard the story about the Timberwolves. He didn't show up to practice for a couple days. He showed up, he played with some bums, beat the main team. He's like, yeah, I want to trade, and then left. He didn't reason. He didn't show anything. He didn't go out on the court and prove his worth. Instead, he decided to be like, throwing my hands up, I'm going to go to a different team and succeed. And no diss to Jimmy. He succeeded in Miami, if you consider succeeding taking an 8th seed all the way to the semis. But
yes, huge success.
But I mean, Jimmy
Myself,
Butler,
and
but
bam.
Jimmy Butler right now versus Jimmy Butler 2 or 3 years ago are two different players. Jimmy Butler has kind of just like and age depreciates people. But I feel like it's just like a steady decline. And at what point in the career is he going to realize that maybe instead of chasing for a ring, he should commit to a team?
The problem is he's 35 years old and running out of time in the NBA. And just like players like DeMar DeRozan, they're trying to associate themselves with better teams so that they have a higher chance as a championship. Because DeMar, he left the Bulls because who the heck is on the Bulls nowadays? Like Zach LaVine, Vucevic. They got some good players, but like definitely not championship caliber. And their record proves that this year. They're a little below 500. DeMar went to the Sacramento Kings because De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, my GOAT Keon Ellis, all those players, they are there, and he wants to support them and win a championship. And that's the same situation for Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler wants to get traded to a great team so that way he can heighten his chances of winning a championship, especially since he's 35 years old and probably only has like 3 or 4, maybe at most 4 years left in the NBA. So,
yeah. And kind of to like relate this to sports, Sophia, obviously you've played sports. As a player, have you ever been frustrated with the team's performance?
I feel like, I mean, yes, definitely, but I think the reason why I've been out of all the sports I've played, I've been most successful in running is because you don't have to rely on a team in running. And I think for me is also really hard. Like I played basketball from 7th grade to my sophomore year, and I played like also in a summer league after my sophomore year, so I had like an additional season even though I didn't play my junior year, like during the school year. And almost like I don't think I was ever at a caliber in a team sport to be able to be disappointed in my team's performance. I feel like the blame always came back to myself. Like I would always look, how could I do better myself? Unless like I was never really disappointed in someone's performance, but I would be disappointed in my teammates' work ethic and especially because it's really hard, especially in a game like basketball when you're not giving out like when you're not giving the same level of effort. And it's hard to balance because you have people of all, especially in high school sports, you know, JV girls basketball, like not very high stakes, but you obviously have the people who have the natural athleticism, who think they should be on varsity, who think they run the show at all levels, even seventh,
Yeah.
eighth. Like when you start becoming young adults, like that's gonna happen. And then you have the people who I would say I'm not like I'm very averagely athletically inclined, nothing crazy, but I am a hard worker. Like I am a hard worker, and so then you have me who it's like I'm working hard, and then when you're not seeing the results you want with yourself, that's frustrating. And then obviously you have like your less skilled players, and if they're on the team, most likely they work hard because if you don't have skill or hard work, then they're not going to want you on the team. And so I feel like with Jimmy Butler, my point of view is, you know, sometimes you have to be a little selfish, especially when you're of that caliber. You know, it's hard, but this is his career. And if he's like, I want to get a ring in my career, and especially like the amount, like every time I accomplish something, I think of the younger self or like my younger self where that's all I wanted. And so, and I think it's often like these professional athletes are dehumanized in their sport because it's their career. But for a lot of people, like they're still that same kid who had that passion if people aren't seeing that. So if Jimmy Butler as a 35-year-old man is like, I have the opportunity to go to a good team and get a ring, and that has always been my goal. And even if, but there's also a certain way to go about it. So I'll talk about that later. Then I don't blame him for wanting to change. I don't want him for wanting to leave. But also at the same time, you can't throw your hands up and be like F you. Like you are a professional basketball player. There should be a sense of professionalism maintained, especially when you're dealing with other athletes and who have that passion. And you know, for a lot of people, I'm sure they lose their passion and it is just a money grab. Especially when you and then when you look at the coaching staff too, you know, they have different motives as well. But I think you do. I think there's like you have to find like a good balance of being selfish and finding out what's best for you and also still being respectable and respectful to, I guess, teammates, coaches, like basically their co-workers, for lack of a better word, to encompass everyone in their organization.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I feel as a society we have failed athletes. Um, like you said, we dehumanize them. We put them on this pedestal that sometimes they might not be able to reach, and it makes people feel like if they're not accomplishing something at the highest level, then they're failures. And we've seen this with like actors too. Like when actors as kids get really famous, they kind of lose that sense of like maturity. Like it affects the way that they mature as a person. Like For example, like Justin Bieber, he got very famous at 16. And I feel like even now he's super immature for his age because he wasn't able to develop as like someone like me or you guys, because we have this traditional and typical lifestyle. I feel like for sports players and just anyone famous at all, I feel like they're cheated out of life because society deems them as like one in a million type of people. So like, oh, we should put them on this pedestal and make them think they're better than everyone. And like not normalize that people make mistakes, people go through like mental ruts. And I feel like that's the problem with like sports and society and just anything in general. People don't understand that everyone's human.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything
That's
you guys
true.
would like to add about that, or
No, I think you said that very well.
perfect? Okay.
I definitely agree with you, and we've seen many examples. I don't remember his name, but I remember today in literally English class this morning, our English teacher gave us a paper, and it was about UNLV's quarterback. I forget his name. If somebody could look it up for me, that'd be great.
Yeah.
He started the first 3 games for UNLV, and they went 3-0. And because of that, he was getting huge NIL supports and deals, and everybody wanted him to basically sell his own personality away to NIL for money. But he actually made the decision to stop playing for the rest of the season because he felt that the NIL program was taking away his humanity by trying to sell him off as somebody who he wasn't. So I definitely agree with you, Bryce.
Yeah, and like you can't blame the player for putting themselves first, but the problem is I bet society gave him hell for prioritizing himself because people think, "Oh, you're an athlete. You get paid to do what you do, so you just deal with it." Rather than him putting himself first being like, "Hey, I'm human too. I want to just do what I do because I love it, not do what I do because you want money off of me." And I feel like that was very mature of him, and I feel like a lot of people need to aspire to be like that, not like him, but just do those decision makings like he did. I feel like that's a very responsible thing to do. Instead of sucking in this money, he decided to prioritize himself. And like even in combat sports, and I'm going to reference the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight, that might anger a lot of people. That was a money fight. I'm sorry.
It was.
When you yeah, and it almost shows like how society like brings in these like crazy people to pay money to watch someone who doesn't care about the sport anymore. And no one can tell me that Mike Tyson showed up to that fight thinking that he was going to fight. If you watch that fight, you can see he was holding back. It was almost like he was there for the money rather than doing it because he loved the sport.
That's true. That's true. And you could tell that Mike Tyson was obviously being a little slow with his punches because people's big argument was that Mike Tyson's a fossil. He's like 57 years old. No way he can beat Jake Paul in a fight. But my argument was that's Mike Tyson. Like, have you seen this man's prime highlights? I know he's not in his prime anymore, but that dude can literally knock a man out in like such a fetal swing. Like he was insane in his prime, and I knew that technique never left him. And I felt like there were moments in the fight where he was slowing down and holding back on Jake Paul because I feel like if they unleashed the real Mike Tyson, like even with his 57-year-old body, he could still definitely beat Jake Paul in a fight because his technique and knowledge and IQ of the sport is definitely still there.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that Mike Tyson was holding back. I mean, if you watch clips of Mike Tyson like free boxing, just hitting pads, he was very mobile. He did not look however old he was. I think how old is he, Joe?
57, I think.
50, late 50s or mid 50s.
Almost 60.
He looked like he was in his 30s still. And that's like very impressive. And like you could take the man out of the ring, but you can't take the ring out of the man. Like that's a crazy quote, but he spent since he was 16 in the ring, he's been fighting. He's a trained fighter. You don't go to bed that night and forget how to fight. It's just like walking. You learn how to walk. You don't go to bed and then wake up and like, "Oh, I don't know how to walk today." No, it's muscle memory. He knows how to fight, but he wasn't able to fight. And society was like, "Oh, shame on you. Shame on you. You don't know how to fight." But like I feel like society doesn't understand. Mike Tyson went through a lot in his prime. Mike Tyson wasn't able to mature. I mean, obviously he had a little bit of disabilities just by the way that he talks, but Mike Tyson is just a victim of not being able to mature as a kid and live his life because of society. Society put him on this pedestal where it's like win, 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 make money. Oh, you're so better than everyone else that he wasn't able to be himself. And I feel like it's important in society that we let people be themselves without judging.
That's beautiful. Tear rolling down my eye.
Preach.
Thank you. Okay. You guys want to move into the next segment
Yeah.
we have?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first segment that we're gonna do is drafting. The subject is college football mascots. We're gonna go Sophia, Joseph, me. I'll have the last pick. Or do you guys want to switch it up? How do you guys want to draft?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Okay. So with the first pick, what do you got, Sophia?
Okay, I did not think I was gonna be going first. But okay. This is also the thing. Let me preface this. Like I'm just a girl. I don't really know a lot about football, and so this is off of just pure aesthetics of the mascot
Yeah.
not how
Yeah.
good the team is, none of that. So
No, I agree. I feel like
With-
some of my picks that I want, I mean, their football team isn't good. In no means, oh, we lost her. In no means is my football team good, but I feel like I'm pretty confident with the mascot just because of who they are as a person. So, Sophia, you tell us what you
Okay.
got. Let's see it.
so with my first pick, I feel like I have to do the USC Trojan
Ooh, okay.
Ooh,
because
That's
I
a solid
didn't.
pick.
Ooh.
I'm putting that in chat. I'm logging all these in chat, by the way.
because
Okay.
like it's just classic. It's timeless. It's like empowering. I actually don't know if it has a specific name.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me
Yeah,
look it up.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's a very good pick to start off with. USC itself is known to be a good football school, so I feel like just in itself, USC is a good pick. The Trojans, I mean, come on, the Warrior, like things like that. I mean, like Sophia said, it's timeless, and I respect the pick. I really do. So, Sophia, are you still looking up the name, or do you want us to move on to the next round
It
or to
says
the next pick?
Tommy Trojan. That doesn't
Tommy
Okay.
Trojan. Hey,
Tommy
so you
Trojan.
picked Tommy
Oh,
Trojan.
then they also have Traveler. It says Traveler, the noble white horse that appears at all the USC football games with the Trojan warrior astride, is one of the most famous college mascots. So they bring like.
The boom.
Can I flip my camera around on this
Yeah,
thing?
yeah.
Let me figure this out.
No, you're good.
No, I just turned it
Joseph.
off. How do I flip it around? No.
I'm not
Okay.
sure actually.
We'll try with the selfie camera. Selfie camera on the computer. Let's see if this. Can y'all see that?
Yeah. Oh, that's
They-
tough.
Like
That is
just
tough.
It's a 2-for-1, honestly.
yeah,
'Cause
and
you get the horse and the. Okay.
yeah, I mean they have like the weird kind of mascot guy, not my cup of tea, but like I do like a real mascot. Like when they bring out a real mascot and that's like okay, like I like that. So I'll stop yapping. That's my first pick.
Okay. I respect it, Joe. Your pick. Let's see what you got.
Y'all let the best mascot in college
No,
football
don't do it.
history
Don't do it.
fall to my spot. I am going with the Western Kentucky University Big Red, the Blob. That guy,
What?
bro, if I had a spirit animal, it'd be the Western Kentucky Blob. That guy is just like me for real. He is so beautiful. Big, red, got a big mouth. He's the red cookie monster. You guys are absolute buffoons for letting him fall to me. The GOAT, the Tom Brady of college football mascot.
What?
Kentucky Blob.
He looks like Grimace. He looks like Red
Yeah,
Grimace.
he looks like the Red
Exactly,
Grimace,
that's why he's
Joe.
the GOAT.
That was
Okay.
not what I thought you were gonna say.
So
Yeah, you
personally,
can
I think I got the number 1 pick in this draft. How did you guys not pick Puddles the Duck, the Oregon Duck
Ooh.
mascot? He's an icon. I mean, have you seen the performance he put on the Pat McAfee show? Every day, or not every day, every weekend, you go to tune into an Oregon Ducks game, and you just see this magical Oregon Duck. This guy is magical. He's a classic. Everyone knows Puddles. I mean, dude,
Nobody's better than the Red Grimace, though.
No, Puddles instantly
Big
wins.
Red.
Okay. So I obviously got Puddles. My second pick on the next round, we're going to go to 3, so everyone gets 3 picks. This is my second pick. I think I'm going to go Bucky the Badger.
Ooh, okay. That's a good one for Wisconsin.
Classic. I like the pinstripes he got. Pinstripes need to come back. I mean, pinstripe NBA jerseys are amazing. That pinstripe sweater is just world class. How can you not like it? And then the Badgers, they're not a good football team, but you got to respect the hustle.
That's valid. That's valid. All right. So is it my turn?
Yeah, go ahead.
Another one y'all let slip into my fingers. The Stanford Tree. Come on. That guy is the GOAT. He got aura. The Stanford Tree is goated. I got Red Grimace and the Stanford Tree on my lineup. Who's beating that? That's like Michael Jordan and LeBron. Come on now. Lock it in.
What about
Stanford
Scottie
Tree.
Pippen?
Right. My bad. But like LeBron is better than my Scottie Pippen all time.
So you picked the Red Grimace and a tree as your picks.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say the most agile, but you know.
Hey.
Oh, okay.
I think
this is my boy
know.
Red, bro.
I don't know about those picks. Okay, Sophia, next pick.
Okay, so I'm kind of having a tough time here, but I think with my next pick, I'm gonna have to go with Cosmo the Cougar from BYU. Just based off of charisma and the moves. Like he is captivating.
Oh, yeah.
He is so captivating.
To add on that, have you seen like the push-ups that he does on the tables like during the games? He like jumps up the tables.
Yes, and
it's on TikTok. It's amazing. Like it's impressive that this mascot is able to do like is he a real person or is that like a cat?
Okay, I actually do know the. Okay, so there's a video that went viral of Cosmo the Cougar and the Cougarettes, or I don't know what they call their cheerleaders, and it's the dancer. It's like I just wanna rolly.
Yeah.
And whoever this man is so tall. Like, and with the like dancers, he obviously stands out, and he has moves. And then come to find out that then the man under the mascot, after he graduates, reveals himself as a gay man. And if you knew anything about BYU,
it's a Mormon school.
Like that.
And but he did still like associate with the Mormon Church or with the. Sorry, I don't know the full name. But it's I know technically there's like a technicality where it's not the Mormon Church, the way you call people members of the church. So I don't want to offend anyone. But and so I think honestly, I respect the charisma. I respect the I guess how he kind of paved the way and still took the big job of being Cosmo the Cougar, even though he was a gay student at BYU. I respect that. And even the new Cosmo, still fire. Like it's more it's the charisma for me.
It's the meaning behind the mascot, and I really do. I think it's an amazing pick, and I definitely agree with the pick. It means way more than just the mascot, but the meaning behind the mascot. So I give you props. It's a good pick. Definitely one of mine. Joseph, you want to take over to the next pick?
Again, y'all are fools for letting this one fall to me. My 7th pick, I'm going with Otto the Orange from Syracuse. Come on now. Big, fluffy, cuddly orange. That man, like, so vibrant and colorful and looks like he would give really good hugs and cuddles. That is why I pick Otto the Orange, the goated mascot. I got 3 goated mascots. I got Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and LeBron James on this team. What else could you ask for?
No way. Joseph, there's no way we're going to let you get away with this. I think you just pulled off the worst draft in this whole in podcast history. And this is the first episode. I think personally this is the worst draft in the podcast history, and this is the first episode.
Well, looks like we got a lot more history to create.
Okay. With the last pick in the college mascot draft.
Wait, was I supposed to go? I've never done a snake draft, but was I supposed to go?
I think you did go twice. Did you? Oh wait, no, you didn't. You're right. You can go.
But it's okay. It's okay because Otto the Orange is not even on my radar, so we're all good there.
I didn't even know Otto the Orange or whatever the hell his name is.
I actually did see him when I was doing my research, but didn't stand out to me for obvious reasons. And so I think
obvious reasons.
Okay, so I think I need a good I want this my team or my three picks to round each other out really nicely. So we
Okay.
have the Trojan, the timeless classic, chiseled, just
Ooh, chisel.
epitome of man. And then we have
Yeah.
Cosmo the Cougar, who's a little more spicy, a little more charismatic, a little more one with the people. And so I think we really just need just a goofy guy. And so with my next pick, I'm gonna go Big Al from Alabama.
That is so valid.
Because
That would have been my fourth pick. That would have been
Oh,
like
what?
just and who else? No one else is the elephants or are the elephants. And I mean, I also points for uniqueness. And he's just so cute. Like because I think Alabama roll Tide, like they're a strong, tough team. Like it's Alabama football. So like and so the fact that
I
they
don't
kind of
give a
have this
crap
like
of nothing but the Tide.
yeah, like the fact that they
Shout
kind
out
of have like
Drewski, man.
this little cute cuddly elephant mascot named Big Al. Like, are you kidding me? Like that sounds like my grandpa, like Big Al. Like he just seems like a family guy. And so that with my last pick, I'm choosing
Family
Big
Guy?
Al.
Peter Griffin.
Okay, so
May I
you
chime in? May I
stole.
chime in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
I hate Alabama University. I'm an
Me
Auburn
too.
fan.
Me
That's so valid.
too.
That's so valid. That's so valid. I'm a huge Auburn, like I've always been an Auburn Tigers fan for like football, basketball, everything. And Auburn and Alabama have like one of the strongest rivalries in all of college football and any college sports. So I am the biggest Alabama hater ever. I just felt the need to
Joseph,
say that.
now that I discovered that you're an Auburn fan, how did you feel when Auburn returned the kick against Alabama to win the football game?
The kick six.
Yes, the kick six. You
Okay,
know.
that play was actually what made me fall in love with Auburn football because
Okay.
I remember it was 2011. I was a little kid, or it was like 2012. I don't remember the exact year. I was a little kid. My dad flicks on the TV. I see this blue football team, and I really liked blue at the time. So I was like, blue, fancy. I like that. And I'm watching the TV.
It was 2013, Joe. It was 2013.
2013. Watching the TV. Chris Davis, who went on to play for the San Francisco 49ers, by the way, fun fact. So pretty goated, if you ask me. He fields the kick, takes it all the way back. Auburn student section goes nuts. Everybody storms the field. They win the Iron Bowl. That play made me fall in love with Auburn football for the rest of my life. So the kick six is what started my love for college football. So huge fan of that play. Huge fan of Auburn University. Huge fan of Chris Davis. Shout out my bro. Played for the Niners. That's my dog.
Nice. Okay. To round out the draft, I got Puddles the Duck. I got the Badger. I need someone who will bring value to the fight. You know, I don't want no bull from Texas. I want Sparty the Spartan. Give me Sparty the Spartan.
Sparty the
Come on.
Spartan from
Yeah.
Michigan.
Michigan State. Yep, Michigan State. Sparty the Spartan. He
That's
is
valid though.
he is I'd arguably say the better version of the Trojan. I mean, the Trojan's only relevant because of the horse. Sparty the Spartan made a name for himself. I'm just saying.
Bro's crapping on Sophia's first pick.
Yeah, you kind of got me there. And also, I love green, so like that's my aesthetic opinion is color scheme, more my cup of tea. But
Yeah.
the red and the gold still goes hard. It's a classic look.
No, I definitely agree. But I feel like if, let's say, your student section is going lit, who do you want? A guy riding a horse or a buff Spartan guy? Come on. Like,
Yeah, they definitely serve different purposes.
Or would you rather have
one
Red Grimace streaking the field doing the worm? Just saying.
No. I would. There's no way he does that.
Real quick.
Okay. So that rounds off the draft. I actually think that was a very solid draft. I mean, so if we had a good draft, I had a good draft. Joe.
Best draft of all time, bro. I don't know what you're saying.
Joe came for the
He
came
for the last.
giggles.
Yeah, he's trying to be the fan favorite with these
It's
stupid draft picks.
It's genuinely, bro. You got the red blob, the tree, and the orange. What else could you want?
I don't know, something intimidating like a Trojan or a Sparty the Spartan.
Let me raise you this. You're walking at a street, middle of the night. You're in Modesto, right? Which is a city above us, and it's like not the safest city. You're walking there. You turn around the alley. You see a giant red blob emerge from the shadows, bolting at you at full speed, groaning. I think that'd be pretty damn scary. On all fours, a big red blob just going towards you and you crap yourself.
No, I think that I'm at like a ghetto McDonald's because Grimace like was bleeding or something. I don't
Bryce,
think I'd be intimidated. I don't.
Yeah,
I
it
don't.
looks like the Carl's Jr. version of Grimace.
Yeah, like I feel like if I go like
It's so real.
I feel like it would just be like a knockoff Grimace, like being like, "Hey, you want a Big Mac or something?" Or like, I feel like that's Burger King making fun of McDonald's for the Grimace shake, but they're just like making a college mascot. I feel like the red blob brings nothing to the table. You know what it looks like? It actually kind of looks like the Tulane logo with the green guy with the blue hat, the party hat. It kind of looks like a skinnier version of the Tulane logo. So your pick definitely isn't solid, but it definitely will make people scratch their heads during this podcast for sure.
It's the greatest pick of all time.
Transitioning away from sports talk, we want to go a little bit more beyond sports and kind of highlight our guest here today, Sophia. We want to start off asking you questions, and then we could go into a little bit more of a conversation, whatever you desire. So the first question that I have for you is, as a student athlete, how do you handle stress?
Not very well. I am not the person to ask for this because I get my stuff done, but I like to. So if like my workload is here, I like to act like it's up here, even though it's not. Like
Okay.
I am like I'll be at school and I'll just be filled with anxiety about how much I have to do, and then like I get it done and it's not bad at all. But I just kill myself with the anxiety. It's not really worth it. And so, I mean, I've kept good grades while being a student athlete, and I think it's just mainly it's like you have to be real with yourself as a student athlete. Are you going to be the type of person that's going to want to work on a lot of homework outside of practice? Yes or no? And so, you have to really balance your priorities, and especially at least for me at a high school level, I I would say I pour like a good amount of time into my sport, but it's not to the point where it's disabling me from effectively doing my schoolwork and like managing and like I'm able to manage. And so obviously I do get stressed, but not in a way where I simply don't have time to do things. It's more just like I'm feeling stressed because I feel like because I just don't want to do it. But and ultimately I think your sport, not all the time. Obviously, you're gonna have up and downs in your sport, but for me, my sport is a big stress like reliever, and so like going and running and going and practicing with my team usually puts me in a better mood, and I feel like ultimately makes me more productive in general. So I don't know. So I think just the best way of managing stress is being realistic with yourself and just like not overworking yourself or putting too much on your plate.
If you would be able to give anybody advice about the struggles of dealing with your anxiety, maybe even insecurities or just mental issues, what would you give advice to people who might be struggling with that and feel like they're alone?
Okay. So I've had my fair share of ups and downs in the sport. I am currently a senior and I started running when I was a sophomore. So I was kind of late to the game. And I think in ways it made me a lot better of an athlete and gave me a lot better of an attitude towards my sport. And at the end of it sounds so cliche, but at the end of the day, sports are for fun. Like I got to a point where it's like I love running. Like nothing makes me feel better than like running a good time and feeling proud of myself. But I was at a point where I just I was like a zombie. Like I wasn't enjoying it. Like I felt like I almost like I would have hated to not do it. Like I would have hated to not run, but I didn't. At the same time, I didn't love doing it. It was just like it was like waking up and brushing my teeth. Like obviously, like if I don't brush my teeth, it's gonna like my breath's gonna be nasty. It's gonna make me feel bad. But like brushing my teeth isn't necessarily fun. And I think when sports should really enhance your life. And so if you're feeling like they're not enhancing your life, then you need to change. You need to reevaluate your priorities and realize, is this the sport for me? Or is this the coach for me? Or is this the level of seriousness for me? Because for basketball, I loved playing basketball. But once I got to the varsity level, I realized that basketball is not something I want to be that serious about. It's not something that I can commit the time to that these varsity coaches are looking for me to commit. And so
Yeah.
it's really, especially like for young, because my issues is and it's a very common issue, especially with endurance athletes, is eating disorders. And so dealing with an eating disorder makes you completely irrational. You like, at least with my experience, when I was really dealing with my eating disorder during my junior year track season, it's you're just like, I showed up, I raced, and that was that. And I really, I wasn't living for me. I was just living to be skinny and to be um this like picture perfect athlete that I never thought I could be. Like, I always thought like, no, like I can't be skinny, like I can't be like these other athletes. And then once I did lose weight in unhealthy ways, and I was arguably my version of skinny that I always wanted to be, I felt, even though it was something I wanted to like be skinny for so long, I felt so empty because because my priorities were completely misaligned.
Yeah.
And so I really think if you are struggling with anything like that, like an eating disorder or just feeling like you're a failure within your sport, I think you really need to reach out, because thankfully I had amazing parents and I had amazing friends and people around me that I could talk to and lean on, and I was able to get help. Like, I started seeing a therapist and I started seeing a nutritionist. And I and then once I kind of recovered from my eating disorder, I had the best cross country season I could ever ask for. And so it's hard, but it's hard to see that. It's hard to see what's on the other side. And so sometimes you just have to trust the process. You have to just tough through the tough times and really and really check in with yourself. Because even now, like, obviously, I still struggle with negative thoughts. And, like, once you almost develop those eating disorder thoughts, like, they never go away. And I really have to reevaluate if I ever want to go back to that and be like, how's this going to make me feel? it might
Yeah.
give me it might give me comfort in knowing that, like, I'm restricting food, and so it's going to make me lose weight, it's going to make me run faster, but that's going to be short term. Long term, I want to be able to not worry about what I'm eating, fuel my body, have a healthy weight, and be able to enjoy the sport I love. Running should enhance my life. I shouldn't be restricting other areas of my life for
To
running.
benefit running. Yeah. Um, yeah, no, I feel like mental disease and illness is very negative. It definitely affects a person in a hard way. And I feel like with you, over time, you kind of realize that it was really hard to find happiness in other things when you weren't like internally happy. And I feel like
Exactly.
it's very important to emphasize that, like, people who are going through struggles, you can't help someone unless they want to be, not like, but like they want to be helped. Like, at one point you realize that, like, hey, this isn't really what I wanted. I want to be better. I want to better myself. And I feel like for you as a person, I give you a ton of props for even just realizing and noticing, like, this is a problem that I need to take control of. I myself have had problems with anxiety and depression. I'm not innocent. I actually put on a lot of weight during my freshman and sophomore year because of anxiety and depression. And I often try to deflect it and blame it on like life events and things that were happening. But it didn't happen until recently that I took initiative for my own actions and been like, hey, I need to realize that, like, I'm not perfect. I know that I've done things wrong, and I know that I need to accept me for who I am, And with that, I've actually found a lot of joy in life. This sounds I feel bad, but I'm promoting my relationship. I'm in a 1-year relationship. Like, I'm going through things that I thought I would never be able to accomplish. Every day I go home and I work out for like 45 minutes to an hour. That's something that like I barely thought I would be able to do. Once I stopped playing sports and once I stopped finding love for the sports that I enjoyed doing at one point, I lost myself. And I feel like recently, just understanding other people and learning to understand myself, I've been able to elevate myself. And like recently, it's been a problem for me too, is trying to balance a lot of things, you know. Obviously, I'm very passionate about this podcast. I've been nonstop talking about it. I do
True.
stats for I do stats for basketball. I was in the play for drama. I'm the senior editor of Yearbook. Like, these are a lot of things that like I need to balance. And like, I'm not perfect, and I'm not saying that I have everything mastered. And it's a learning process with everything. So when having you on the podcast, Sophia, and telling everyone else that like the struggles that you went through and how you overcome it is honestly motivating for me and for maybe people who are watching who might not have the confidence to talk and like express how they feel, but you might have just saved people's lives. You might have just changed people's lives for the better. So I feel like the way that you express yourself and hold yourself now is honestly honorable. Like, it's very hard to go out and say like I had a eating disorder, right? It's very hard, and some people will instantly judge you for that. But I feel like you are now comfortable knowing that like you're better to the point where like you're like up here, and it doesn't matter what people say because you're gonna stay up there. And like I feel like it's important for everyone to know their worth in life, and I feel like you kind of have it figured out. And props to you because it's not easy. It really isn't.
Yeah, and I think really it's easier said than done, but I almost like wasn't when I was in like the depths of my eating disorder, I almost wasn't thinking about myself. And so if you have to just take a moment and be like, is this me? Like, am I playing basketball or soccer or whatever sport because I love it? Or is it just like something I feel like I have to do?
Yeah.
And I and I got to the point where it's like, no, like I felt like I had like I was so happy for my success in running, but I realized that like I couldn't even enjoy it. I couldn't even enjoy it because I was so anxious and stressed about keeping up this like unattainable or this I don't know, I can't think of the word. Like unstable, like it wasn't maintainable. Like like
Yeah.
I my the life like or like it wasn't maintainable. Like my habits weren't sustainable. If that's the word I'm looking for. My habits weren't
There we go. Yeah.
sustainable. And so I was just like a yo-yo where like I would have these highs from running fast at track and then it was just low. And I'm like, no, I want to be able to have this high of running like a good race and then be able to go and celebrate like with the people I love and show up feeling motivated and not and because I wasn't like didn't I wasn't enjoying running fast. I was almost just like had because I was taken over by the fear that I was going to get slower. Like that was my main fear. It's like, no, if I don't have everything completely in line and I'm not this like perfect like body if I don't have this like body type that I envision in my mind that I'm gonna get slower and everything's gonna go to shit or everything's gonna go bad because
It's okay.
everything's gonna go bad because I'm not gonna be able to run fast. And I'm like, okay, whoa. Like Sophia a year ago was just having fun with her friends on the cross country team, not running the fastest times because that's what it's about. And I'm like, I've worked hard. I worked so hard to get to where I am today. And I'm not going to let these negative thoughts like ruin that. And I got to a point where it's like, I'm letting my negative thoughts ruin like these moments that I should be enjoying. Like I'm just letting my negative thoughts ruin it. And
Yeah.
I was like, no, I worked this hard to be proud of myself and to enjoy every moment of the process, not to live in fear while doing my sport. And so
Yeah,
once I
Joseph.
realized that, I was like, I need help and I need like to change my mindset. And I'm glad that thankfully I had that moment. I had that moment a lot earlier than a lot of athletes do in general. A lot of athletes, especially girls who run from a really, really young age, who are kind of like put on this like pedestal from a really young age, they don't know how to break out of it because thankfully thankfully I had my thankfully I didn't get really serious about my running until junior year. So I had my sophomore year to look back to and be like, that's the joy I want to have in the sport. And so I, and a lot of people don't have that. Like they don't remember a time where they really were truly happy in their sport.
Yeah. Joseph, is there anything that you would like to add about mental things in life? Not even in sports, but just in life in general. Have you ever had this time in life where it opened your eyes and like maybe made you feel like you had to change for the better?
I've definitely had some moments like that. I don't know if I were to get into this, it'd be a huge yap session. We don't want to enjoy ruin the good energy here, but I
Yeah.
feel like everyone does struggle with mental health, and everybody in their life has and will and continue to will. But it's just like the willpower of us to push through as humans. And Sophia, I really appreciate you for coming on this podcast tonight and being vulnerable and sharing your experiences, because I know those are hard experiences to share, especially sharing that you had an eating disorder and all these other things. And Bryce and I just really appreciate you coming on the show and
Yeah.
being open to share everything to our members. And we're just really happy that you were able to come over here, show bravery, and share all your experiences with everybody else to see if they were going. Like if somebody else was going through something similar, they were going through, like you were going to, they could find a way to get over it because of your words. And you don't know how much like you're doing, but you're doing a lot to, like possibly influences somebody's life that could be watching this talk show. So we really appreciate you for sharing your opinions.
Yeah. Is there anything else you would like to add before we wrap this up?
Um,
We're in a minute. We're in an hour and 6 minutes.
yeah.
We smashed this like
Dude.
time that we had. So I'm really happy that the conversation went like this. But I feel like for the sake of you, I'm sure you have better things to do. I'm starving. I haven't eaten dinner. So
I know, me neither.
we should wrap
Yeah.
this up and
Yeah.
go separate ways.
I just want to thank you guys for having me on. I had a lot of fun. And yeah, like I think like ultimately I'm very blessed. Like I really didn't struggle with like really bad eating habits for a long time. So I don't want people to like I feel like the way I was talking about it, it was like sound like from an extended period of time. And thankfully it was a short amount of time where I was able to get help. And it's so cliche, but you're not alone. Like even in that time, I felt so alone and like no one would understand. And then once you start talking about it, it's like someone will understand. And if you need to advocate for yourself. You need to be your biggest cheerleader. You need to advocate for yourself because only you know like your intentions. So
Yeah.
thank you again for having me on. And I'm yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Perfect way to wrap up the podcast. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. For everyone who's listening at home, watching, make sure you guys subscribe, like the podcast, share it with your friends. It would be greatly appreciated. Go ahead, Joe.
Follow the Instagram.
Yes, follow the Instagram. I'll put the tag. I'll edit this over. I'll put the tag in the middle of the screen. Sophia, would you like to shout out any of your socials or anything?
Sure. I'm Sophia Envelopes, like envelope, like like you
Yeah.
send mail in an envelope, plural.
Yeah.
Sophia Envelopes on Instagram,
Okay.
and that's really the only social media I care about. My TikTok username is extra kidney because, long story short, I had to have a procedure done on my kidneys when I was like 2 years old, and they found out that one of my kidneys actually has two ureters, and it's like a mega kidney. So
So you're
that's
built
what yeah, so that's where my TikTok username came from, is I kind of have an extra kidney. But it's more just like a mega kidney. It's not like a whole separate one. It's like an ultimate kidney.
Yep.
So yeah.
Thanks for the clip. Thanks for the clip, by the way. That's getting clipped, and we're definitely using that as a
IG
promotion.
Reels.
Yeah. Thanks again. We really do appreciate it. Hope you have an amazing night. This means a lot to me, to Joseph. I I don't know how to thank you any other way. I'll find a way. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Bye.
Of course. Bye.
Peace out.